Welcome to Fake Presidents, a real podcast about, well, you know.
Each episode will take a deep dive into a fictional American president from pop culture to see just how much fiction there really is. I'm Eric Buckman, a former political consultant turned TV writer, among other things.
Sometimes you say TV writer. It's a very podcasty, but you weren't as exact in your writer.
Do I need to punch my T's more?
It's just something I noticed. Sometimes you go writer.
A former political consultant turned TV writer.
Yes, that's how you always do it. And I'm Ben Oren, a former journalist, sometimes speechwriter, and all the time TV producer. And today, Eric, are you festive? Are you feeling festive? This is where we cue some ching ching, some bells.
Sorry, Ben.
Some little reindeer clumping around, some Christmas.
This movie is not deserving of the amount of post-production time I typically put into one of these episodes. It's not deserving of clips. It's not deserving of any sound bites or sound effects. It's not deserving of any post-production audio work that I typically might do to help enliven the story that we're helping to tell. Now, this movie, if I have to say, is an absolute piece of garbage.
Wow. I have to say, though, you were hitting your T's on that one, though. That was really good. This movie's not a piece of garbage. This movie is Christmas at the Holly Hotel, a direct-to-DVD movie, direct-to-streaming movie. I don't know what they're called anymore. I discovered this movie. It's from 2022, and I thought it was like a Hallmark movie because I thought it would be fun, Eric, to do a Christmas movie in December. But, we have the problem with our podcast. The only problem is that we have to find movies that have a president in it. So I went through the 76 movies that have had fake presidents in them. And it turns out there's only one that's a Christmas movie and has a president. And that's Christmas at the Holly Hotel.
I mean, if you don't count Love Actually, which we already did.
Not really. It's a Christmas. I think Die Hard is more of a Christmas movie than Love Actually is.
Yeah, no fake president there. Yeah, the reason why I okayed this movie, Ben, is you sold it to me as a Hallmark movie. And I'm like, great, we could do our first Hallmark movie on this podcast. Those movies have an audience. Those movies, they tend to fit a certain template of sorts. They fit into the industry, actually. They fill a very special niche for millions of people every December. But this movie is not that. This movie did not make the Hallmark cut. It was not good enough for Hallmark. It was not.
We don't know. Wait. It was not good enough for Hallmark. You don't know what the filmmakers' intentions were. These are independent filmmakers. Maybe they didn't want to have to bend the knee to the overlords at the Hallmark Channel to make the changes that Hallmark would demand of them to make. They had a vision, Eric.
Yeah.
Maybe Hallmark would have said, you know what? We don't think there should be a president in this movie.
Maybe.
Then what would we be doing right now, Eric? What would we be doing?
Yeah, this movie, it didn't even make the cutoff for the anti-gay Hallmark alternative that, Candace Cameron Bure went to.
Yeah, because there's no anti-gay stuff in it.
Yeah. There's some weird stuff in this movie.
There's definitely weird stuff in the movie. I wouldn't say that there's anything specifically homophobic about this movie.
No. But I wouldn't be surprised if the political leanings of the people who made this tend to fall more in line with, say, Candace Cameron Bure than
I think we'll get there. I think we'll definitely get there, Eric. That's why when I watched the movie first, I didn't just willy-nilly choose a movie and say, hey, Eric, let's watch this thing that we don't know what it really is. I watched it first. I vetted this movie, or as you would say, vetted. I vetted this movie.
You vetted the movie. I tried to watch it with my wife. She made 5 minutes, and then she was out. I don't mean out of the movie. I mean out of the marriage. This movie destroyed us. No, you mentioned this movie was made in 2022, which means it was shot in 2021, 2022. During COVID.
Who knows? A movie like this, maybe they shot it a month and a half before it started streaming. You never know.
And at a point, I think this is a prime example of a movie that was shot during COVID without any COVID protocols whatsoever. I don't think a single person wore a mask during the making of this film.
Well, yeah, I guess all the characters and all the actors did progressively get more and more hoarse as the movie went on. They switched out one of the older characters also halfway through. They thought we wouldn't know. No. None of that happened.
No, they did do that. There is a point in the movie where a character in the wide shots is different from the character in the close-ups.
Yeah, Yeah, well, it's not because that person died.
My name is Andrew Shepard, and I am the president.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So, Christmas at the Holly Hotel. This movie was directed by Joel Paul Resig, who has a very long resume. The movie was shot in Michigan. He must be a Michigan filmmaker like Michael Moore. There's Michael Moore, and then there's Joel Paul Resig. And he's done, like Eric, you've seen his movies. He's done Horse Camp. He's done A Dog for Christmas. He's done Andy the Talking Hedgehog. He did this movie called Faith Under Fire, which I know is one of your favorites from 2019. He also directed the sequel to Horse Camp called Horse Camp: A Love Tale. And then to complete the trilogy of Horse Camp, the Horse Camp trilogy, Horse Camp: A Treasure Tale. Isn't that smart? They use tail at the end of each one because, you know, horses have tails. And he co-wrote the movie with Trevor McCall. And as you know, this is Trevor McCall's only credit.
Yeah, he also did a movie a couple years ago, wrote and directed it, called Trafficked, A Parent's Worst Nightmare, with Dean Cain and Christy Swanson. So I have to think that was like some sort of precursor to that movie that came out this summer that actually like made a lot of money.
Oh, the Jim Caviezel movie?
Yeah, they must be really kicking themselves for how did we not get all that Caviezel bank.
Yeah, I mean, you have Superman and you have OG Buffy, and you can't beat Jesus?
Yeah, I'm guessing this is one of those movies where it turns out the real bad guys in human trafficking are...
The people who own the pizza parlor down the street?
Yeah, the one in D.C., yes. That is now back in the news, if we don't mean to... Actually, yeah, by the time we record, this comes out, it'll be hopefully long gone.
Why is it back in the news?
Because Musk was retweeting Pizzagate stuff like 2 weeks ago.
No, really?
Yeah. He loves just asking questions, Ben.
Well, he as he says, he is a noted philo-Semite.
I don't even know what that means.
It means he actually loves Jews. That's what he well actually'd.
That sounds like a Jew in the... Philo-Semite sounds like a Jew in the Stone Age. Like, that sounds like it's like a sidequel of, like, the Crudes. They run into the Philo-Semites on their way
Eric, save the good ideas for not on the podcast. This is the stuff you should be pitching.
Oh, yeah, I'll go to DreamWorks. You know that movie, The Crudes, with Nick Cage, the animated movies about the cave family who invent, like, the rom-com formula and whatnot? What if, hear me out here, what if they ran into some prehistoric Jews?
I mean, I would go directly to Adam Sandler with this one.
This is a presidential favor.
Anyway, where were we, Ben?
Okay, normally we go through who appears in the movie. Look.
Nobody appears in this movie.
You're not going to know any of the actors in this movie unless you're a huge, Jessie Henson fan. She plays Kathy. And of course, I think we have a couple of people who love the work of Joe Kurak, who plays the police officer, Matthew. And I know you have like a thing for Dennis Doyle, who plays Kathy's dad. Like,
He's
weird.
He's good. He's actually like I imagine he is somebody who, if you're filming in the Michigan area and you're looking for local actors to play like one scene, couple line parts, he's probably on some casting agent's short list.
Yeah, he's like the dude you go to when you need a dad in Michigan, and you can only hire locals. The rest of do we need to name the rest of the people? I don't know.
We have to name the president at some
point. The president Tyler is played by Grover McCants.
A better name for a fake president.
Grover McCants would be a great... They should have just let him be Grover McCants. And actually, there's a police chief in the movie. And you know what, Eric?
What?
He's played by the actual police chief of Holly, Michigan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I will say this. Joel Paul Resig was given a blank check, key to the city, to film wherever he wanted to.
Yeah. He must have not paid for any locations at all.
Yeah. You say Holly, Michigan is a real place. The Holly Hotel is a real hotel.
Well, it's like a restaurant, like bed and breakfast, but more like a restaurant.
Yes, yeah, because that turns out to be, look, this summarizes the plot. We got a food critic from New York who just interviewed for a job at the Times, hasn't heard back yet. She's ambivalent about her future. She has a best friend who keeps telling her, why are you reviewing food when you should be making it? You're a much better chef than you are a writer. And Kathy's like, thanks? But
she's also like, thanks, but I am like up to be the most influential food critic in all of New York City, so that's still pretty good.
They never say New York Times.
No,
You say
it very much could have been like the Murray Hill Times.
It goes both ways, actually. It's like the opening scene, I couldn't tell who the movie was about because they both have the same exact setup.
Because the friend is kind of like a Carrie Bradshaw. She writes about relationships. But what she's really good at and what she loves are like rom-coms.
Yeah, like the food critic says to the advice columnist, instead of writing about relationships, you should be writing movies about relationships. You should be doing the Hallmark rom-coms. And then the advice columnist says to the food critic, you should be cooking. They have the scene presents them on a totally level playing field. You can't tell who the friend is. You can't tell who this movie is about, which I'm not saying is a bad thing per se, but every additional minute that passes before you know who the movie is about is not a fun minute. It's a little frustrating.
Well, we soon find out that it is about Kathy, the food critic. And
we only find that out because she has to head back home for the holidays. Like, oh, yes, that's what the movie's about.
She chooses to come home. It's a weird conversation because her parents are like, are you coming home? We really want you to come home for the holidays. She's like, And then she's like, actually, I bought a ticket. I'm going to be there tomorrow. They're like, yay. So Kathy makes it back to Michigan, to Holly, Michigan, a very quaint town. And we know that Holly, Michigan is very quaint because everybody keeps telling us that it's quaint. They love telling us that. So just the moment she lands, she rents a car, she's heading to Holly, and she's pulled over by Officer Matthew for going 51 in a 25, and this is their meet cute.
Yeah, she gets pulled over by an officer who's clearly posing as an officer because that uniform does not fit him.
It fits him in all the right places, Eric.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good. Yeah, it does not fit him very well at all. My guess is that's an actual police jacket that they just borrowed from the 3-person operation that is the Holly police force.
Yeah, the police chief just opened up the wardrobe cabinet there and was like, go for it, guys.
It's kind of a meet cute, except there's nothing cute about it.
She is completely indignant about driving 51 in a 25.
Yeah, and he's kind of a dick, too. I mean, did he have to pull her over?
She was going 51 in a 25, Eric.
Yeah,
Law and order.
But after that happens, even the police chief is like, did you have to pull her over? Like, no one believes he pulled her over.
Have you ever heard of the broken window? Look, you got to go after those broken windows because you don't want it to turn into people selling drugs on the corner of Holly. Holly's a quaint town. We got to keep MS-13 out.
Usually when a cop pulls over somebody under some pretext condition, things go in a very different direction during that traffic stop.
Get off my plane.
Okay, so we can't go through every beat of this movie, but it is worth mentioning when she first sits down with her parents because they actually do get out an unusually large amount of backstory amongst 3 people who know each other very well.
Correct.
But it does fill in some of the background politics of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, for example, for most of Kathy's childhood, she was the daughter of a congressman from Michigan who was living in D.C., so she was raised in D.C. We also find out that this hotel is pretty famous for one thing that happened in the late 1980s, early 1990s.
Yes, George Bush came to the hotel on a campaign stop in 1992. And you know what, Eric? That's a true story.
Well, they have real pictures. What's interesting is they never say Bush. They only say the president visited here during his reelection campaign. And then you see a picture of George H.W. Bush.
With Dad, with a fake toupee on. They had some Photoshop.
Oh, you think they Photoshopped that? Okay, so yeah, the food critic, she's back with her parents. The parents are demanding that she helps out more around. They expect her to take up her old duties, and one of them is to be the tour guide of the hotel.
Yeah,
So
their motives are to get her to stay in Holly and be the chef at the restaurant.
And so what are the 2 key details that we hear about the history of this hotel while she's giving a tour to this random group of people who ostensibly live in Holly and are just there because they want to take
the tour before the pre-dinner tour.
The pre-dinner
You don't
tour.
do that when you go to restaurants, you don't get a pre-dinner tour, Eric? Look, if you ask any restaurant for a tour, any restaurant, I get it when I go to McDonald's. I ask for a little walk. I ask for a little walk around. Yeah. And they show me where they keep the McRibs, and they show me where the cheese comes from, and they show me the real ice cream machine that they use just for themselves. They keep the broken one in the front.
Oh, yeah.
These are all the things you only find out by demanding that a restaurant gives you a tour.
But also, that when you make your reservation, you always put down your name as John Taffer's nephew. so
Yes.
that they know that this could be a potential bar rescue
I
situation.
also have a fake badge from the local authorities. Inspection.
That would be a better one. Instead of being a food critic, be a food inspector who wants to cook. That's a better...
That would be good.
Better arc.
Eric, save it for the meeting.
Anyway, she gives the tour. She mentions two specific things. One is that the hotel was a part of George H.W. Bush's reelection campaign.
Yep.
I mean, I guess saying it's a part of the campaign overstates things. It was a stop
A stop to meet the people, to be with the people.
to meet the people. And the other thing we learn is there are ghost stories. And
Yes, there are ghost stories. And we also learn that, Matthew is there on the tour, coincidentally, for
Matthew
the sake
the
of the
cop.
story. Matthew
Yes.
the cop. And he's there with his grandmother.
Yeah, he's clearly stalking her at this moment.
And we find out that the grandma is a little horny for George Bush.
He was one good-looking man.
Yeah, he was one good-looking man, is what she says. Sparks are continuing to fly between the food critic and the cop.
Sexual tension. There's a lot of sexual tension.
And we only know that because everyone else keeps commenting on it, even though there isn't any actual on screen.
No, well, because also they appear to be the only two single 30-year-olds in all of Holly, Michigan.
In all of Holly, Michigan. It's also at this dinner when it finally happens that we find out that the actual chef does get injured in a cooking-related accident. And this is the first time that the parents go to her and really beseech her to cook, take over. We need you now. We need you more than ever. And she says no. And everyone winds up having a really shitty meal as a result
Yep.
because apparently the rest of the kitchen staff fucking sucks.
They're terrible. You cannot find good help in Holly, Michigan.
Yeah. You know why? Not enough immigrants. That's all I'm saying. That's what happens when you live in a town that builds a metaphorical proverbial wall around itself to keep out the people who actually do know how to make things happen.
Yeah, I know, because other immigrants have tried to come to the town. They were so excited to come to the town that they were driving, say, 49 miles an hour. What happens? Officer Matthew pulls them over. But anyway, so look, at this point, these two, they're like they're Michigan 8s, which make them like LA 4s. But okay, they get together. They keep on going out on dates. Every time they kind of have a good time.
Well, the grandma sets up the first date and
Yes,
kind of
the
pressures
grandma
them
pushes
to get
it.
together. And then I will say that the date montage that we do get after that is probably the best part of the movie. It actually looks like it could be on Hallmark. It looks like it could be aired on an actual TV channel.
Yes, it was properly lit.
Yeah.
The cuts were very nice. Everything worked.
And also, there was no recorded audio because it was
no recorded audio.
a
There is-
montage with no dialogue.
Yeah, but basically they keep on getting together, breaking up, getting together. Like not even. Is it a breakup?
Not
Or she
even
only been on
breaking
one
up.
date.
They go on one date. He misses the next date because he has to work. And she's like, okay, fine. But then he gets guilted into asking her again. So they wind up going on a belated second date. That's the date where he's talking about how he's not just a cop. He's a cop who wants to have a ton of kids. And she swoons at him talking about wanting to be the father of a ton of kids.
Yeah.
Winds up calling her friend back in New York. It's like, oh, you're so dreamy. But I have a life back in New York. And so
I'm up for this big job.
Yeah, so after 2 dates, the whole reason why she doesn't want to see him anymore, the whole big conflict is the fact that she doesn't have a house there. She doesn't live there. Her work's not there. His work is there. There's no real future for them at the moment. And so her attitude is actually kind of pragmatic. It's just like, okay, well, guess it's not going to work out. I guess I have to go back to New York after the holidays.
But also, Eric, let's not forget that while Kathy's parents are very excited about this match, and while Matthew's grandmother is also very excited about this match, this potential match, there are two other entities who are also very excited about this match.
Yes. Yeah.
Because 40 minutes into the movie, 40 minutes, we meet two ghosts.
We meet two ghosts who were sort of set up during her tour of the hotel when she mentions that there's ghost stories. And although there's ghost stories that are centered around really just one ghost, a former owner.
Mr.
I couldn't
Hurst.
tell. Was the second ghost even set up?
I think it was mentioned, but it's his wife.
He says, okay, obviously they died in murder-suicide, apparently.
Yeah. That's a different
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, the two things they got set up earlier, one is that there will be a special guest for the Christmas dinner, and the other is that, the people sometimes have ghost stories of living here. But the ghost stories are really just like the lights go out at weird times, which makes you think, well, the hotel's over 100 years old. It's probably just a wiring. But
yeah, there's been
guess
multiple
what?
in real life. There's been multiple fires at this hotel.
Multiple fires. People have died. It's bad.
Yeah, this movie could actually also take place on like Shudder. Like,
Yeah.
there's like a whole other genre to explore within the Holly Hotel universe.
But actually, so and all the stories that they tell during her tour is how it keeps changing ownership, and her parents wind up owning it, not that long ago. And in real life, yeah, it keeps changing ownership because it burns to the ground for the insurance money that the people take off, and then new owners take over and have to rebuild it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
We don't have much legal. I mean, how is your wife? Does your wife know a lot about like libel law, Eric?
I will say, as a divorce lawyer, I'm sure she has some very interesting thoughts on whether or not these two, cop and food critic, are going to make it.
Yeah.
No thoughts on.
Okay, so allegedly run off with the insurance money. Anyway, So they're back and forth. We think everything is nice with them together. In fact, like Kathy's so excited again about Holly that she agrees to be the chef for Christmas dinner.
Well, you forgot about the purpose of the ghosts. Is in addition to the grandma doing everything she can to set them up, the ghosts are also trying to set them up.
Anyway, things seem to be looking great. Kathy is going to stay. I mean, she was always going to stay for Christmas, but now she agrees to be the head chef for Christmas dinner. Her parents are so excited about this. They're not telling her why this is so important. They're
No,
just
no
saying
one's
this
saying
is so
why.
important, and they're saying you're saving the hotel. I don't
Yeah.
know whether there was a whole side story that hit the cutting room floor with mom and dad going through the bills, being like, I don't know if we're going to make it to New Year's. This is a really important Christmas dinner.
Yeah,
I don't
we need a
know, but
miracle.
whatever.
Yeah.
They need a miracle, and they get it. But then Kathy gets a phone call from New York. She gets the job at the Times, and she needs to come back to New York on
Christmas Day.
Day.
She gets to call Christmas morning, which I assumed was the filmmaker's way of saying, yeah, those New York Jews, they work on Christmas. They don't give a shit. Yeah, they're up at 7 a.m.
Oh, maybe the Times. Maybe it's the Jerusalem Times.
Maybe. And so not only does she get the job offer Christmas morning, but they need her to fly back that night for the grand opening of some new big restaurant that's doing their grand opening on Christmas Day.
Yeah, Moishe's Falafel Hut. Moishe's Kosher Falafel Hut.
Yeah, and so this is when she has to leave town.
She has to break the news to her, and she has to break the news to her parents. This is where we get a lot of backstory. He's overcome with kind of anger and disappointment that Kathy's going back to New York, that she won't be able to cook that night, and then he's like, I've been a worrywart since 2008 when the polls had me up by 10 points, and I still lost my seat because of that big blue wave.
Oh yeah.
So I guess my question is, where was Kathy's dad on January 6th?
Well, obviously he was cooking dinner at the Holly Hotel.
That's what he told his wife. That's what he told his wife. He was like, if anybody asks, if anybody from the government calls and asks where I was on January 6th, I was taking inventory for many, many hours.
How dare you come into this office and bark at me like some little junkyard dog? I am the President of the United States.
Apparently you were paying more attention than I was. So what's going on, Ben?
Well, she's leaving to go back to New York, and then she breaks up with Matthew over text. And then Matthew tries to stop her and pulls her over again.
Oh, yeah.
On her way to the airport.
Not
And
even in his uniform.
Not even in his uniform.
He's just clearly, not even on duty, clearly abusing his cop
To
powers.
be fair, I think the behind the scenes story would be that the police department needed their uniforms that day.
Yeah.
so that people could actually be cops. It was like after 6 p.m., they could use the uniforms. They didn't even have to sign them out. Just go in, you have the key, take them. But it was before 6 p.m., you had to ask the chief, and if they had to arrest somebody or something like that, they would need the uniforms. And so probably something like that was happening at the time. Yeah. So it's Christmas. She's going to New York. He tries to stop her. Fails.
Yeah, we go back to the hotel just to see how pissed off and upset and depressed the parents are. And so you get a scene of that.
Because dad has a sit down with the ghost.
Oh, yeah, the dad does sit down with a guy at the bar who we know is a ghost. He doesn't know is a ghost. He doesn't even think is a ghost until the wife walks in and is like, who are you talking to? And he turns around and the ghost isn't there anymore. It's like, oh.
And the way she says it made it seem like he's talked to himself before at the bar. Like there was some unstated, not mental illness, but maybe addiction. I'll go with addiction.
I mean, for all we know, that's why he's not and still in office is the reason why the polls didn't match the outcome. It's not the blue wave. It's maybe the white powder wave, if you know what I mean.
White powder wave.
Yeah. But anyway, they're down in the dumps, and then she just returns. We don't see why.
Nope.
Like she says, she got to the airport and changed her mind, and that's it. And so she's in the kitchen, and while she's in the kitchen, that's where we find out who the special guests are, because apparently no one in the kitchen has ever told this.
No, but wait, nobody in the entire fucking town has been told, except the cop, except the police chief. The police chief,
that's it. There is no other presence. There is no background checks, no metal detectors.
Not at all.
No visible Secret Service.
Not a single sweep. Not a single sweep. We don't even see them put out extra salt outside the hotel to make sure that nobody slips.
Yeah. There's not even any news coverage of a presidential visit to Michigan, just a setup that maybe he might be in the area already.
Yeah, not even like they could have had the TV on in the background. It could have, and you could have heard that the president is coming through Michigan, much like George Bush did in 1992.
Yeah. In fact, the first sign, inkling, mention, reference, revelation we get that the president and first lady are coming is during the actual speech that the dad gives to welcome them into the room.
Ladies and gentlemen,
can we have your attention, please?
as you may know, we have two special guests joining us tonight.
And when we say special, we mean very special. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause to the President
and the First Lady
of the United States of America.
Merry Christmas, everybody. How you doing? You all right? How you doing? How are you?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the president and the president and the first lady walk in.
Yeah,
and it's President Tyler. And what I want to know is, do you think he named him Tyler because he kind of gave like quasi like Tyler Perry-esque vibes?
Oh, yeah, we should mention it's definitely an African American president.
Yeah.
He's on the older side, but not like grandma 90 years old.
No, he's like in his 60s. Big dude. He has a tight white beard, rocks the red tie, which means Christmas, but also means other things potentially. Well, Christmassy, a little GOP at the same time.
I mean, Trump loved his red ties.
Yeah, and he has and he also has a first lady who doesn't say a goddamn thing, doesn't open her mouth.
She says a little bit. She says a couple lines. And there's no motorcade.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Wait, they didn't even have the flash. They didn't even need a motorcade. They could have just had a whole bunch of flashing lights outside.
There is so much fun to be had. Imagine you're a chef filling in for this amazing dinner the president's going to be at, and you don't know the president's going to be there. There is some great stuff to mine there for the fact that all of a sudden, while you're cooking, people will start coming in and checking your ingredients for poisons and finding out where you bought them from and trying and really inserting themselves into your process, your creative process. Oh man, like to see like a real like anal chef have to deal with the Secret Service interlopers trying to make sure the food is safe. That's fun.
Yep.
They don't do that.
They
don't do that.
By the way, they don't even tell the kitchen at all that the president is there. The only people who know the president is there at that point are the people in that room.
Yes. At no point does anyone in the kitchen say, you know what's going on out there?
Yeah, everybody's pretty excited out there. Why is everybody clapping? I guess Dad gave a really good Christmas toast. I don't know. Yeah. Let's get back to work. But let's take it back a second.
Yeah.
So the president sits down for dinner with Mom and Dad, and we find out that they were both congressmen together. Yes. We find out that they played cards together. We find out that the president would really love for Dad to come back to D.C. in some position. In fact, he's got a couple of cabinet positions opening up.
Yeah,
that he'd love to consider him for.
And then he says no because
He's like, I got a good thing going on here with this place.
We got a great backup plan in case the hotel doesn't make money, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, a little fire. But back in the kitchen, Kathy and Matthew reconnect.
And then the dad comes in, tells them what's going on, and they're both shocked that the president's
they're like,
there.
Basically, everybody's like, the president is fucking here? Like, why wouldn't anybody give us a heads up? They don't even say why they had to keep this whole fucking thing a secret.
Yeah. Especially if you want people to come
to the restaurant. Come to the restaurant. Even if they're doing it for the most like cynical reason why they're having the president. Like, oh, we could charge people a little bit more money, or we need to make sure every seat is filled up because, if we don't pay off the bank by January 1st, no more Holly Hotel. Like, none of that.
Yeah. And so the Kathy realizes she has to go get dressed real quickly. And that's when she goes out to meet the president wearing a very nice dress.
Very nice. It's like a Christmas gown.
I mean, but a little sexy too. Like it's an interesting choice considering she views the president as an uncle-like figure. She calls him Uncle Tyler.
Yeah, but she's like Uncle Tyler. That's not how you heard it?
Yeah. Matthew's like, what happened to me?
And she's like, Uncle Tyler.
And it's at that point that we get like a closing montage. Like basically the president leads everyone down into the basement. Also shades of Pizzagate.
It sounds really creepy when you say it like that.
Leads everyone down into the basement, which we've set up earlier as being like a pseudo comedy club /
like a speakeasy.
Yeah. To read Christmas poems.
Yes.
And of course the Christmas poem he reads is public domain.
Yeah, of course.
He winds up starting the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, the long version.
Yeah, we got the whole goddamn thing.
The children would nestle all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads.
And I have to wonder, his delivery, it's very Jesse Jackson does Green Eggs and Ham on SNL. You know, like the only reason why it's not funnier is because the poem itself is just a lot less interesting than Green Eggs and Ham.
Well, and also because we keep cutting back to Kathy and Matthew.
Yes. So, yeah, and it's a lot of intercuts because they do the entire long version of the poem while Kathy and Matthew they finally have their private dinner upstairs while everyone else is downstairs.
Well, the truth is they had to get this movie above like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so they were like, shit, what are we going to do? Like, is there anything we could put back in? They're like, no, like, let's just have them stand here and like stare at each other and we'll intercut. And that should get us above 115.
Yeah. They didn't even do the fun Quentin Tarantino thing of like making up new verses for the poem. Like, no, it's just straight up the poem.
Yep.
Yeah. While Kathy and Matthew fall deeply in love. And my notes stop. I don't even remember how it ends.
He proposes.
He proposes to her. And so what she decided? What, like give up her life in New York to stay in?
Yes.
Holly?
Yes. Even though I would love for the sequel to be that actually he gives up his life in Holly and becomes like a New York City detective.
Why not? Especially since that was the whole premise of the Die Hard movies. How he moves to L.A. for Holly, his wife.
Wait a second. What if this really takes place in like 1985 and it's actually a prequel to Die Hard? Yet again, I think this is one both of us need to save because this is... I think we're about to enter the Die Hard universe.
A much better Christmas movie.
Yes.
Bump.
Motherfucker, I'm not asking if you're interested. I'm the president of the United fucking States, man.
But so we have a fake president. We have a fake president for about like 5 to 10 minutes. And we get a lot from it, though. I think it does speak to something that we haven't seen as much in other movies, where we have this... what I believe to be I think we both would agree is a Republican president.
A black Republican president is what I think we're supposed to kind of take away from it.
Yep.
That said, we also know this guy survived the blue wave in 2008.
Yes.
So maybe he's not?
He could have switched parties also. He could be somebody who's an opportunist.
I mean, we know he's not a Tim Scott type because he's definitely in a relationship.
Married because he's married. Because there are no chirpings about what's the deal with that guy.
We can presume he's not the first black president because it sounds like Obama really was president in 2008. They don't actually say it, but
the blue wave.
Yeah, everything else happened in 2008 because of the recession, which is interesting. He's a congressman from Michigan while the auto industry was on the verge of not just collapsing, but being utterly decimated.
Yeah.
And so, that's when friggin' what's his name?
Mitt Romney.
This is when Mitt Romney was like writing op-eds, let the auto industry fail. Which was pissed off everybody. That's why Michigan went super blue.
Yeah.
So did the congressman dad pay the price for like being too cozy with Mitt Romney?
I bet he didn't have to pay much of a price for the hotel when he bought it in 2009.
Yeah, that's just it. He's returning to Michigan during a time when property values were plunging across the entire country.
Yep.
He talked about this blue wave as if the blue wave wasn't a response to a decade's worth of GOP policies that led up to
him being removed from office, but also him taking advantage of the world afterwards.
Without even the need of a fire this time. They didn't have to burn down the hotel.
Yeah. They probably own it outright at this point.
Yeah. So all that gets totally glossed over. As far as we can tell, other than him losing in 08, it was great times. Yeah, but for the presidents, I have to go with Democrat only because I think in the eyes of these filmmakers, it's not that they hate Democrats, but I believe that in their mind, this is their way of showing that they are open-minded and that the movie does cross all political boundaries and can appeal to everyone. It's like, wink, wink, we have a black Democratic president too.
Nah, I'm going to have to say that he's definitely a Republican.
Okay.
The way I would say the red tie is a giveaway. I don't care that it's Christmas. He's a red tie kind of guy. The fact that he's still buddy with Dad after all these years, and would consider somebody who hasn't done anything for the past decade plus other than run a small restaurant in Holly, Michigan for a cabinet position. Who would do that? Who would is that something a Trumpian person would do, or is that something that a normal person would do? No, that's quite Trumpian to pull. And it's not only that, quite a few cabinet positions are opening up. That also seems pretty chaotic, something that leans more towards Republican.
But it's also not unheard of that if you're looking to hire somebody to fill a cabinet position, you pick somebody from the very industry they need to regulate, which means that possibly he could qualify for the FDA. He could qualify for this. He could qualify for whoever oversees hotels and tourism. Interior, I'm sure at some point covers what he does. Like he's got the qualifications.
Right. He seems pretty qualified for all that stuff.
Yeah, but it's not unheard of for politicians from that era to be really close friends with people across political lines, because at that point we had not had the Tea Partyization of American politics, and social media hasn't pushed things to their extreme either. Like when Boehner retires, like a lot of Democrats are like, sorry to see the guy go, and they still friends with him, and that seems going to happen even when McCarthy goes at the end of the year. I'm sure you're going to see a couple of Democrats who've known him for a long time who are going to be like, sorry to see him go, but
love to watch you leave.
Yeah. So, it's possible. The movie is vague enough in its politics that there is a world where this guy is totally a Democrat, but a Democrat maybe from, let's just say not LA, not New York.
See, I see him as being that they came up together from Michigan, that he might be from like the suburbs of Detroit or something like that.
Yeah.
Became governor, gives governor vibes.
But all the more reason why it's not that big of a deal for him to be in Holly then, if he's a Michigan congressman turned Michigan governor turned Michigan president.
Yeah. But he hasn't been back. They made it seem like they haven't seen each other in like
a long time.
For a long time.
Like this, presumably he didn't even go to the guy's inauguration, which I have to guess would have happened in 2016. This is a second term guy, because we're saying 08 went the way it probably really did. And then if 08 goes that way, why change things in 12? Yep. So go 8 years of Obama. So America went, okay, we tried a black Democrat. Let's try a black Republican.
Yeah.
But you're saying he rose out of the Republican field in 2016, which in a world where Trump does not enter the field, it really is a free-for-all. It's this guy versus who are the front runners? Rubio and Cruz. And
in pure likability, what we're seeing from President Tyler far exceeds anything a Rubio or a Cruz brings to the table.
The problem that I have is so much of the reason why people coalesced around Trump was specifically because we just had 8 years with a president who was not a white guy. And that was fueling so much of the resentment and the feeling that white people were not getting their due, which is why Trump's grievance angle played very well. Yep. I mean, even if Kathy's employer, the New York Times, likes to portray it as economic unrest, we know it's not really economic unrest and anxiety.
Yes.
It's racial resentment. So the idea of somehow them turning to a Republican who is also not white, that to me, that strains the ultimate credibility.
Okay. He's pretty likable, though. What do you think? What do you think the country thinks about President Tyler?
I'm guessing second term. It'd be one thing if the reason why they're keeping it a secret is because they know that like protesters would show up or people at the dinner itself would try to spit on the guy. But there's no fears, no concerns for that. Everyone loves him. The cop loves him, you know. So this is a 2022 that presumably went through a lot of civil unrest over policing in America. And whatever this guy said or did, it did not make him an enemy of small town cops.
Yeah, well, he certainly
who love to abuse their power.
He's not a defund the police kind of guy.
Most likely not.
Well, he probably looked at that town. He's like, I don't know how much more money we could even take away from these people.
We could hire one social worker or maybe one fire investigator to look into
See
all the
what's going on in this
fires.
hotel. But yeah, and it doesn't seem like he's coming to small town Holly, Michigan, in order to say he's a man of the people. You know, he's the press isn't with him. There's no flashing bulbs or anything like that. He's doing it because he wants to see an old friend.
To help an old friend. This is
help an old friend.
ponyism.
Oh yeah, we don't know. Maybe he's getting a piece of the hotel.
The president is there
something
to help his friend out of a financial strait, so that his friend can then hire his own daughter to take over the kitchen. So it's a complete nepo baby political crony situation.
They'll have a lot to answer to in front of Congress.
How? Because I'm the goddamn president of the United States of America.
So the president, I think he's pretty well liked.
Yeah.
I think President Tyler is doing pretty well for himself. The fact that he's not like complaining about anything to dad at dinner about being president. Life seems pretty hunky-dory that he's able to just up and go to Michigan for a Christmas dinner to help out a buddy. He's probably tracking pretty well. Likable guy. The country seems to be behind him, from small town cop to big city restaurant reviewer. Everybody likes President Tyler. This guy has to be polling in Fantasyland, upper 50s, lower 60s.
North Poling?
North Poling.
Yeah, because it's a Christmas movie. Wait, does Santa come from the South Pole if you're on the other side of the equator?
The other side of the equator, Eric. What, is that like a euphemism for something?
So I keep forgetting I'm talking to a flat earther.
Yeah.
That's one of the few things Ben and I really agree on.
So you like fall off? I don't understand.
Although I guess it's summertime for Christmas down there. So where does Santa come from? I guess still the North Pole then. Yeah. But I don't know. Anyway, any listeners out there who live south of the equator, or as Ben calls it, upside down.
The upside down. The real upside down.
Let us know where you think Santa comes from at Christmas time or whatever. I'll agree with you pretty high in the fantasy of this movie. He's like a 70%er. You know, it's like a wartime president.
I think the legacy of this president is going to be, what kind of weirdos does he bring in to the cabinet? If he's willing to bring in a small town owner of a restaurant and bed and breakfast / possible, insurance scammer to his cabinet, what other weirdos are serving on this cabinet?
And did he also recruit them by traveling without the Secret Service to every small town in America looking for people who, I guess, were not videotaped at the Capitol on January 6th?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, but I guess in this world, there was no January 6th if he's a two-termer. Unless he's what happens.
It didn't happen yet. We don't know what happens with the next election.
Wait, what if this is 2022? So a 2020 election did happen. Let's say he was elected in 2016.
Yeah.
Biden won the vote in 2020, and he successfully overturned the election. Pence did his thing.
Oh,
Pence
wow.
was brave enough.
That's why we don't see that. That's why New York seems like not as hustling and bustling, is because of the camps.
Yeah.
President Tyler's re-education camps. And that's why he's polling so high. That's why he doesn't need to check the food anymore, because anybody who would hurt him, they're holed up somewhere else. They're being watched by people who need to watch them.
Yeah. Oh, this movie got very dark very quickly. But you know what?
Now that's a movie. Now I think you like this movie.
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting to think about. At least now it's about something. That was Christmas at the Holly Hotel. Thank you all for tuning in. I've been Eric Buckman.
I've been Ben Oren.
Follow us on, I'd say, social media. We're still around on most. I'm mostly active on Threads as E. Buckman and Blue Sky as E. Buckman. If you want a Blue Sky code, just email us at fakepresidents@gmail.com. I'll send you mine. Ben is invisible on socials. I think you can find him on Instagram.
Yes, but I have to approve you.
Oh, you're private?
I am private.
Oh man, I feel so
Not
special.
anybody could have access to all this.
Yeah.
I'm motioning to my body. I know
Yeah.
this is...
Yeah, all your trips to Vegas, which you seem to take every other weekend.
I love
What can
Vegas.
say.
Well, I went to Vegas first to see you two in October, and then we do a yearly trip with friends in December. Son's children. And then I might go back in April because Fish is going to be playing at the Sphere, and I haven't seen Fish since 1996.
You love the Sphere. Maybe you just love, was it Jimmy Dolan? Is that the guy?
Who doesn't love Jim Dolan? He respects fans. He respects former players. He's an excellent musician. All these things are not true, but yeah.
Artwork by Ann Hacker, music by Johnny Sadoff.
Johnny Sadoff. People could email us if they have questions about things.
fakepresidents@gmail.com. If you can think of a better actual Hallmark movie that involves a fake president, let us know.
Please rate us, review, subscribe. All that stuff is nice and helpful.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
And have a Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful Hanukkah, a Happy Hanukkah. Have a killer Kwanzaa. Have a fancy Festivus.
Have a great New Year.
And that's been Fake Presidents.
Okay, bye. We'll see you on the flip side. It would have been kind of on point if the reason why he pulled her over wasn't because of speeding, but because she had a Christmas tree ornament hanging from her rearview mirror that was just a little bit too big.
Oh, I like that. I would like if there was he was grumpy about Christmas.
Yeah, that's just it. And she's like, it's air freshener. It just smells like Christmas. And he's like, bah humbug, giving you a ticket. And get out of the car.
Eric, you're giving away all your good ideas in the podcast.
Yeah,
we'll set up a meeting. We're going to set up a meeting with Candace Cameron Bure. We're setting up a meeting with Candace Cameron for you.
Is it Bure? I don't know.
Pavel, it's Bure. Didn't you play NHL 92 on Nintendo?
No.
Pavel Bure. Pavel Bure.